Well, hello beach lovers. Thank you so much for joining me. I am going to do a picture of a rabbit today, but I did grab this picture off of pexels.com, which is a great location to get pictures to practice painting. Some of them are free images. You can modify them to paint and sell. I would use them more for just practice and then come up with your own compositions for selling. All right, so I'm going to try leaving my hair down and see if I can not get paint in my hair. We'll see. All right, so hopefully I'll be able to give you all of the items that I'm using, but to be honest, a lot of the numbers have rubbed off on my paintbrushes. I noticed that the last time I did a tutorial, so I really struggled getting you that information. So we're going to focus on paint colors and some brush strokes. So, as I've shown you before, I like to draw out my paintings in chalk ahead of time. So this should be pretty easy. We've got a few shapes here. So we'll start up, we want to keep his little feet about here, right? All right, and then this is all fluff. All right, so I'm going to take, let's see, kind of a medium-sized brush. Like I said, yep, the numbers are gone. It's under there somewhere. So this is a medium flat brush. All right, I'm going to wet it. And I'm going to start, I like to go from dark to light, but I think in this case we're going to go from light to dark. So I'm going to give a light, I'm going to do titanium white to start, to give a nice non-white color to the back. And then for the areas where we want to separate where his fur is, I'm going to make sure I'm going to put some raw sienna in there so that we can see our transitions so our head doesn't get lost in his chest. All right, I'll give myself a little extra. I'd show you my palette, but I haven't worked out the multiple camera thing yet, so I apologize. Okay, so, and I'm kind of sideways, so this might be a little bit awkward. I'm hoping you're going to be able to see everything. Maybe if I move it like this. I want it to be close enough that you can see it, but at enough of an angle that I can paint. No, that won't work. All right, we'll just stick with that. If I bring you closer. How is that? That'll work. All right, let's give it a try. Hopefully I won't have my back to you. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start with my raw sienna, and I'm going to get the transition here. And again, just like last time, I'm using canvas paper because this is just a practice painting. It's not something I plan on selling later. Get a little bit of that transition here. I'm going to pull it kind of off at an angle, right? Because we've got fur there. So even though we're going to end up hiding this, we're going to go ahead and just get that motion going. All right, I'm going to get a little bit more. Take this around this side. Here we go. And then we kind of have some dark here. Kind of there's a transition back here. This might not be the right brush for this, but that's okay. We're going to go for it anyway. All right, and then I'm going to get another transition down here on his legs. All right, and as you can see, even though there's white here, you can see that there's a dark transition. So I'm going to bring that down. Same thing over here. We're gonna get some of that. And there I am with my little sound effects again. It's basically just adding that motion. So when we do paint over it, the paint's going in the same direction, because sometimes if you were to have, there's a squirrel out there, he's distracting me. If you like swirl your paint around and it dries, and then you end up spending the rest of your time trying to hide the brush strokes. So we're gonna kind of keep our strokes consistently going in the same direction. You can see how in here we get some kind of layers of that darker color. So we're gonna go ahead and give ourselves a few wild strokes in here. We're kind of building up our shadows, where our shadows are gonna be. All right, now we're gonna make it a little bit darker in here. So here's where our leg is. As you can see here, it kind of comes up into a V. We're gonna go ahead and create that. That will probably actually end up making that a little bit darker, because that's pretty doggone dark right there. Okay, you know what, I am gonna change my brush to something a little smaller. I have a smaller flat brush. And the sizes don't need to be exact. Like I said, this is just for fun. I have two types of flats. I'm pretty sure there is a different name for this one. This one is pretty long, and I don't have a lot of control over that. That might be good in this case, because our fur kind of goes in all different directions. And this one's a little bit shorter. You can see the head on this one's about an inch. It's about 3/4 of an inch. And the brand probably has a lot to do with it. So this is a 10, and there's no number on this one, so I can't tell you what this is. Flat 5059. Anyway, so I'm going to start with this one because I love this brush. I'll get a little bit wet. All right, so we're going to go back in and we're going to add some darkness around here. Did a little bit. And we're going to cover our blue line. We're going to bring this down in here. We get that separation. And we're not using black. If you notice, we're not outlining in black, because this is not a cartoon rabbit. It's okay, like I said before, bring things down and overlap a little bit and get some of that fur going in there. All right, I like this color. I like this color for him. I think this suits him very, very well. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna get a little bit of the outline here. How's that? Looks pretty. I like it already. Kind of has a nice little shine on this canvas paper. All right, and I am using acrylic paints. I may not have mentioned that in the very beginning. I do paint with acrylics. I will be learning oils, so hopefully I'll be able to share that with you as I go. But oils I struggle with a little bit because I'm so used to acrylics. I'm just going back over that line, those lines, and just adding a little bit of texture. It doesn't need to be a lot. Okay, it's going to be flat at first. All right, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with my lighter colors. And where it's really white or light, I'm going to paint this around the eyes. We're going to try and keep that shape. Alrighty. And then I'm going to go into this fur over here. You can see how it's light. Go up in here, and if your paint is still wet, it's going to blend a little bit, and that's perfectly fine. We like that. It should blend, and a lot of times I like to mix my colors on the paper. We'll take that over here. You can still see a little bit of the darkness under there. All right. So right now I'm just going through and I'm deciding where we're going to have our lighter colors. So this is where we're going to be the lightest on his cute little feet. And then also on this cute little foot. Hello, little bunny. Here we go. And then looks like we can leave this a little darkish, but I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna get that coat of light in there, and then we'll add some of that raw sienna over the top. We're just getting the shapes of his paws. Alrighty, so as you can see, we've got a little bit more white in there and then some of the dark, and we've got some light in here, a little bit of light around his jaw, and of course up in there. We'll probably keep that area, his inner ears, a little bit pink to keep it adorable. So I'm going to just go into his face and bring in some of this color. There we go. We'll bring it around his mouth. You see, we've already outlined it. So we can go in over that now. And don't worry about going over. You're going to have fur. That's okay. It doesn't have to be exact. This is not a cartoon. All right. We're going to take some of that line that comes around here and pull that out. All right. And we're going to take some of this up into his ear, like this. And I am definitely going to try and get some of that to look like it's feathering up in there. Okay. I'm going to have some of this. All right, are you able to see that okay? And I'll try to work. I don't know if I can bring that in any further. All right, we are going to come back in there with some pink. And it looks like we've got our base colors here. So what I would suggest, since you've got all these variations of color, is to just kind of blend your colors. Blend, but don't blend. I'm going to show you on the palette. So excuse this camera-ness. Let's see if I can, it won't let me zoom in. So let's do this. All right, so this is how I like to do stuff like this, is I like to mix but don't mix. Get some darks, get some lights, make your brush go in and out of the colors. Okay, and then kind of pull it through. Now for something like this, you're going to want a lot of layers to get all your fur on there. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm doing a little bit of off-white, doing a little bit of raw sienna, mixing but not mixing, and we're going to just... And you want to get it going in the direction that the fur is going to be going into. I'm mixing it. Doesn't have to be exactly the same every time you do it. We've got that dark transition there. And we're going to do more with our mixing but not mixing. Watch. I want to see some variation in color. And if I'm up there, I can see where it gets a little bit darker. So I'm going to do the same thing, but just keep it a little bit darker. Keep those strokes going. Keep things going in the right direction. We like brush strokes. Flat head. I'm not using a lot of water. The less water we use, the more likely we are to see those strokes. If we get it watery, it's just not going to show up as well. There we go. Nice. It looks so cute. He's so cute. I would even... Actually, I think you're more likely to get a better brush stroke when you... To get that fur look, you're pushing away like this. Like this. because you're going to get a straighter line here than you are over there. So if you really want it to look fuzzy there, kind of do some of those. Get you some fuzzy rabbityness going on. Make sure he looks a little furry. He looks so cute. I like our bunny. All right, so I'm going in with some more dark, but I'm gonna not put it everywhere. Just kind of bring it around. Make sure we get something that looks like fur. And I'm not using water for most of this. I just keep dipping my brush back into the paint. I'm doing straight raw sienna over our lighter colors, and I'm not pulling. I'm just kind of dabbing here and there. And I want to leave some space in there and kind of move it around so that we get that furry texture. All right, and then we're going to go around to the other side here. Now we've got lots of white. I will go back in there with one last layer of the white, which I've not pulled out yet. But for now, we're just trying to get that. Layers make a big difference with hair and fur. And acrylic is really nice. Can you see me? Acrylic is really nice for this because it dries fast. So I will do this area. I'll go and paint another area of the painting, and then I'll come back and finish the fur. I'm really liking this. All right, so just like I did over there, I'm going to just kind of drag a little bit of it so that it has that furry texture on the edges. And now, like I said before, this isn't about getting it to look exactly like the photograph. Photorealism is a talent, but I don't think that's really what we need to go for. We're not there. I'm not there. So if you're new and you're watching this with me and you know it's my first time painting a rabbit, I'm guessing you're not there either. But to get closer to photorealism, I'm going to move you back just a tad so you're not looking up my neck. Ooh. And I'm going to take it in the direction that the fur looks like it's going in the picture. And I'm not just dabbing, I'm dabbing and pulling. Dabbing and pulling. All right, but just doing it very quickly. Color. So it was easy for us to see where our shapes are because we put our shadows in first and our lights. All right, so then I'm going to take, I've got some burnt umber. I'm going to take just a dab to get us some of our shadows before we go into the face. All right, and let me think. I guess this should do fine. We'll just make sure we only use a little bit. So you can see I have the burnt umber on a little bit with my other colors. And I'm going to bring it in here. And I'm not worried as much about making those fur strokes. I just need those shadows to show up. Get a little bit, and then I'll probably put more fur. And we can always dab a little bit in here and get us some shadows. We're going to go back over this with a little bit of a lighter. So painting, when you're painting a picture like this, I always say the devil is in the details, but really, it's a weird saying. But details can make all the difference. So we're not taking a lot of time on this. We're just going to pop in some low lights here. And then I'm going to bring this back up. We get that shadow going that was there earlier. Some separation of the legs. It's the same color as before. Then we can give ourselves some downward strokes. Bring it up here. Just keep all the paint. We don't need to worry about it on this side. We're going to bring some white in to create that transition there. We don't need it up here, but we are going to need it in these areas. Take just a little bit more. I'm going to keep mixing it with my raw sienna and burnt umber. And I'm mixing them mostly because I want to make sure that that burnt umber looks like it belongs. I don't want it to look like it's standing out. So we're going to just add a little bit here. You know, almost like it transitions into it. Could use a thinner brush. I'm just sticking with the brush I have because I like it. Get some of that. Yep, all right, so now where we did that, I've got a little towel here that I use to wipe off my paints. Where we did that, I would go back in with just a little bit of the burnt umber to kind of hide that just a tad. See? Now it's a foot again. Little foot. Lots of little fur. Cute. Alright. Yeah, we've got some of that up here. Alrighty. So what we're going to do now is we're going to let this dry while we go in for his face. So the face, it's a little bit darker in here. There's not as much of the lighter color, but we did get our low lights. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with the raw sienna first, and then I'm going to go over it with a mixture of raw sienna and titanium white. We could actually, and then eventually we're going to go, I said titanium white, unbleached titanium white, and then later we're going to go back in with some white. So take my own advice here. Raw sienna, and every time we are painting fur, we're going to go ahead and we're going to try and keep our strokes going in the direction of the fur. And here we got ears, we can't really see them, but I think we all know pretty much what rabbit ears look like. Okay. I'm going to get those edges, and that's okay. We're going to pull it while it's wet. Pull it, hurry up. Do it. If you're painting with me, do it. Just get it while it's wet. There you go. Perfect. Okay. And then you don't necessarily have to rinse. I would just kind of wipe my brush off a little, take some of the unbleached titanium white and bring it back up into the ear. It's okay if there's some mixture of color there. Kind of went out. I don't worry about it too much because we're going to put some grass in the background later. Here we go. And then I would even go over that again with some raw sienna here. And maybe a little bit more up in here. And then down here. We do what we did before. We hit it and we pop it up. Alrighty, so now we're going to go into the rest of his face. And you can see in the photograph, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get this area here, and I'm going to use a smaller brush. If you have a liner brush, you can use that. Can you see it? It's not really focusing. A liner brush to do that little area. Or I have, this is a number 2 round, which I also really like for little small areas. It just, I have what I feel is more control, but I'm not going to get a nice thin line with this like I would with a liner brush. So we're going to try it with a liner brush. So with a liner brush, you want to get it wet. Okay, I get it wet, and then I'm going to put it directly into my burnt umber, because we're going to put some fur around it, so it's okay if it's a little dark. I'm going to go right over where we drew out his little face. So windy here. And you know what, while I'm here, I'm going to, with the burnt umber, I'm going to go ahead and paint in his little eyeball, but I'm going to change my brush. Get rid of my liner brush, rinse it off really good. And for that one, I definitely am going to use the round brush because it makes it a little bit easier to get in that area. So maybe just a tad bit of water, not too much water, because we'll probably have to do a few layers for the eyes. So I'm going to go around like this, keep it inside our line. And the first coat always looks the worst, so don't worry about that. Okay, put inside our little line. And we'll bring it out at a little bit of a circle. So you can see that eyeball is popping out. My neighbors are talking and it's distracting me. So I apologize. I'm painting right in front of my window so I can get good light. Alrighty. Alright, so we're going to forget about the eye for now. Right now it's just a brown blob. And I would not use black for the eyes, okay? Keep it brown, maybe use gray if you need to get the dark middle. Do not use black. It won't look right. Okay, get some of the paint off of here. I'm gonna go back in with my raw sienna, okay? And we're gonna go up like this. Now the first coat is okay if it's kind of thick. I'm going to try and stay around my nose. Go back up into where we've got some of that white. I'm going to not try and take it over. I'm going to go near it, but I'm not going to take it over. Right, and we're going to do like this. Keep that going in this direction. This is the direction that the fur is going on the face. And then here we can start to take it over, make it look like fur. So here I would almost keep a dry brush with just a tiny bit of color, because you don't need a lot of color here. Maybe even wipe some of the color off of your brush. You want that white to poke through, and then you'll see more of that brush stroke. Here, I'm going to bring you a little bit closer so you can see. I promise to fix this later. Whoops. And there's the bunny, and there's our bunny. All right, so you can see how with the dry brush, that light color is still there, but we've got kind of brush strokes going through. And then we'll do the same thing. We'll bring it up around its eyes like this. Now I'm going to go a little bit lighter for this area. I'm going to get a little bit more of that in here. And that dry brush is going to give me, somehow I got that darker color in there, which was a mistake. All right, so we've got our color laid down. So now we're going to go back in with layers. So I'm going to mix titanium white with raw sienna. I'm going to mix, but not mix. I'm going to mix it, but I want it to kind of be separated. All right, so we're going to go back. Get that brush, get those strokes going in the right direction. Don't be afraid of it. Just do it. Make him look cute. You got this. I have faith in your abilities. All right, now we're going to go back in with our raw sienna with kind of a dry brush. And as you will see, it looked like, oh, we overdid it, but nope, we didn't, because we're going back in with that other color again in the same direction. Same direction, some lovely little strokes. We're going to get some texture in there. Oh, he's so cute. Look. Aw, it might keep him. I could give him away to my grandson, but I think I'm going to like him more than my grandson will. All right. I'm mixing some more color. I'm going to bring a little bit more down here. So don't worry about it if you're not getting that fur effect. All right, because I'm going to show you another way to do it. I'm going to go over some of these other areas. Now that that's dried with a lighter color, we're still going to see the dark coming through, but it's going to be a little bit hidden. All right, and we're going to get, this time I'm going to go for titanium white. Now, I'm not a fan of always using titanium white by itself. Very rare occasions when you should use it by itself, but what I would say, because we use the unbleached titanium white in here to give us our base color, is just use a little bit of the titanium white, mix it with your unbleached titanium white. I would say maybe use a little bit more, say a 2-to-1 ratio. 2 titanium white, 1 unbleached titanium white. This is, you can see the color. So that's the mixture. So it still looks white, and it'll look white in comparison to what you see here, but it won't be that super bright white. And we're gonna do like we did before, which is we're gonna just get some of those bright. And then we've got that area around his eyes. This may be too big, but I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna just come around here. Just dabbing, just dabbing. Here we go. And then I will just kind of, I'll take a little bit of burnt sienna in there to just kind of blend that back in. Blend it in a little bit like that. Blend it out a little bit more here. All right, there we go. We got, and I'll take even a little bit more burnt sienna, raw sienna, excuse me, down here. Okay. All right, and I'm gonna get a little bit more brush strokes down here. Let's make this look fluffy. I think the white really adds to the fluffiness of the rabbit. All right, so, all right, I'm gonna go spend a little bit more time on the ears, then we're gonna come into the rest of the fur. All right, so I'm gonna take my titanium white and my unbleached titanium white and mix them just a tad. Same thing, 2-to-1 ratio, so it looks pretty white. Okay, and I'm going to just get, and make sure you get a lot of that off of there. We want it to be pretty dry. We're gonna go do these ear fluffies here. Okay, before I do the rest of this, there's one thing that's bugging me, and that is going to be this area around the eye. There's some skin there. I want to kind of get it to a flesh tone, so I'm going to take my raw sienna and I'm going to darken it just a little bit. And then I want to tone that down with my green. Just the tiniest bit, just the tiniest bit. See what I can do, if I can do that without it turning green. Oh, I think I did it. All right, so I'm gonna go around the edge of his eye. Keeping it soft, it doesn't need to be, hey, here's the edge of his eyeball. All right, so then what I would like to do, I'm gonna go ahead and just finish up his eye while I'm here. I would put a little bit of variation in color. You see how we did the dark brown. So I would take burnt umber and raw sienna and mix them. And I would do a little bit here. Stay inside the line we just created. Okay. And then I'm going to add a little bit more of the burnt umber to get the next set a little bit darker. Here. So that you should be able to see that transition in color. And then the final one is going to be purely, this is where if you wanted it to look black, you could use Payne's Gray. I'm going to go ahead with the burnt umber and just keep it that dark color because I think that looks black enough as it is. I'll fill that in. Alrighty. And then if you want to get some reflections in the eye so that he looks alive, you can take a little bit of your titanium white and white mixture and we can just kind of throw it in there a little bit like this. Here we go. We'll give it, yeah, very lightly. So it kind of curves with the eye. You can see that there's some light reflections there. All right, so that's done. Here, I'm going to bring it a little bit closer. Yep. It's really simple. I just took the tiniest dab of white while the brown was still wet so the white doesn't take it over. It kind of blends in a little bit and just dabbed it in there. Alrighty dighty. Okay, so now we're going to go do the rest of the fur. So this is where we get to experiment. So we've got 2 fan brushes. Now with fan brushes, I'm going to make it so you can see me. My tripod is having issues. I'm not sure how to fix it today, but maybe I'll get it worked out for next time. So although we've got a really good fur look, if you're looking to get a little bit more detailed, this is good enough for a beginner. I think he looks adorable. He is very, very cute. Actually, I think we did a little bit better than I expected for my first time. But I would take, fan brushes are funny. So I actually use the Bob Ross fan brush. And this, I think, is the one I'm going to use. Now, you have to be careful because when you use a fan brush, if you put too much paint on it, it doesn't look right. So you just want to dab paint in the tips. And for this, you can see that it's the lighter color. So I'm going to add, I did bring some orange and yellow. We're not going to use the orange. I'm going to just put a little bit of yellow in with my raw umber. Just to brighten it up. I'm going to brighten it up. Hopefully without, there we go. I think that will work. So I'm going to show you what I did. So it doesn't look yellow, but it has hopefully a look of light. And it's not just a lighter raw umber, we get more of a yellow. So here, so you can see how it's mixed together. You should use a palette knife, but I used my brush because I'm done with it to mix it. All right, so then I'm going to take my fan brush and I'm going to dab it. And we want it to be kind of dry. All right, so I'm going to show you how much is on here. See, it's dabbed. And personally, I like to just do one side unless I'm doing clouds, so that hopefully I don't get it all over the place. And I just try and stay on that corner. So I'm going to take it and I'm just going to give some fur in here. Just dab it in there. Okay. So here's where we're going to get a little bit more detail and some longer strands of fur, and they're going to be more separated than with our flat brush. So like I said, you dab it in, come back over to your rabbit, cute. And then I will take a little bit more up here. I could even go darker, but I'm just gonna take it easy. Don't overdo it. We can go over the light and you'll be able to see through it. See that? So don't worry about that. All right, and then I'm gonna take a little bit more down here. Cover that up. It's a little bit darker. And like I said, you know, this is a big brush, so if you can keep it on one side, it'll make it a little bit easier to get areas like this without painting outside the lines, without going too far. Here's all right. We'll get just a little bit in there. We don't want too much in there. Just enough to kind of say, look, it's fur. There we go. There we go. There's our little guy. That's our bunny rabbit. He's freaking adorable. Now, if you wanted to go in with some pink on the ears, I would do that. I would have done that earlier. I didn't put pink on my palette. I'm sorry if I looked away from you too much. I'm still kind of getting used to this. So we could go in with green for the background. So I kind of feel like if we go in with the green, then we've got to go back in. Probably should have done that already. So I think we'll just leave it as it is. So this was our guy. And this is our painting. He looks pretty doggone adorable. And we did this pretty quickly. So we could always go in with more details, and as you can see, more layers equals more details. It's about your strokes, the direction of your strokes, and falling in love with your fan brush. There's his eye. Cute. You can see that fur texture. I thought about doing the grass, but I decided not to because we just kind of went straight in for the rabbit. If I were going to do the grass, I'd get halfway through the body, paint the grass around it, and then go in for the rest to get the fur effect, to make sure his fur sticks out around the grass. But I think we did a wonderful job. So, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. And if you have any ideas for something you'd like us to try in the future, let me know. And perhaps we can give it a whirl. All right, thank you so much for joining me. And it's spring, it's warming up outside, so hopefully I'll see you at the beach soon. Bye, see you later.